Hi, welcome to Inside the Lines, sponsored by Rodney and Langley Funeral Homes, as well as Alex City Marine and Dark Insurance. I'm Lizzie Arbogast, along with Scott Hardy, and we are back for week 2 of the football season. I will have to say, I just want to start this off by saying that I was impressed with Alabama football and with Benjamin Russell and their crowd and the environment, and it was a really fun game for sure.
I'm glad you got to experience what it was like to be down here. I was really interested to get your take on it, so I'm glad you had a great week 1.
Yeah, it was awesome. So, again, our game of the week this week is, again, going to be Benjamin Russell. They're hosting Pelham. It's region play week. This is kind of kicking off, if everybody in the state is kicking off their region play. And I talked to Coach Danny Horn this afternoon, and he just said, you know, it's not necessarily a must-win game, but it's also it's kind of a must-not-lose game. You don't want to get yourself in a hole early, and luckily Benjamin Russell, in the region that they're in, they start off with what I feel like is a team that they can beat for sure.
Yeah, and that's Pelham, and this was one of the games to watch when we did our series for that, and a lot of that had to do with it being a region game. And last year, Pelham fell to the Wildcats. 42-21. That was the highest scoring point total for the Wildcats that year or last year, and so I anticipate that being something you see again this year. But Pelham's a little stronger. If you talk to some of the coaches,
right.
They feel like this is a stronger team from last year, so if they're not able to put a complete game together, it'll be a little tougher than last year to get a victory.
I think they returned 14 of 22 of their starters from last season, so they do bring back a lot of their talent. And Horn said that they have kind of a complicated offense that can be difficult to defend. So based off what we saw last week from Benjamin Russell, I would think that the Wildcats, should be able to handle it. But, it will be a good defensive test for them early on.
Yeah, and I know that every coaching staff tries to put in the work to make sure they do what's required during the week for film study. But I think the Wildcat coaching staff, any little thing that they can figure out a way to gain an advantage, they figure out a way to do so. And we saw that last week, and we'll give you one more updates for that with Inside the Lines live tomorrow. But they were spot on in
yes.
their observation.
Yeah, for sure. Next, we'll move over to Horseshoe Bend. Against Lynette. Horseshoe Bend's gotten off to a really good start. I think people maybe weren't expecting them to do as well to begin, but now they have a team that was in the semifinals of the state championships last year. It's going to be a tough road ahead for Horseshoe Bend, I would think.
Yeah, Lynette's very athletic. They have so much speed, both sides of the ball, but in particular at the skill position. So that'll be a factor in the scoring, I think, in this game. But Horseshoe Bend has found its way from a success point with being able to run the ball with Trace Meadows and
right.
Throwing it around a little bit with Cade Worthy when it was required for him to do so. Very efficient quarterback. So I think this will be a high-scoring game, but it's one that the Generals, like you said, they don't necessarily have to win this one, but I think this will be a true test of how good the team actually is if they're able to put a complete game together against Lynette.
And I do think they've had to. Their defense has looked really good. I mean, they've only given, between their Jamboree and Week 1 game, only given up 3 points. But they maybe haven't been quite as tested as they're going to get this week. So maybe we'll get to see kind of where their defense is actually going to stack up throughout the season. All right. Next, we're going to go to Reeltown against Woodland. One of our keys to success for Reeltown was they needed to get off to a good start, and they're currently 0-2. They have got to get a win this week for sure.
Yeah, and last season they ended up winning 6 games, and they did start the season out 0-2 last year, but this is going to be a completely different test this week. And again, this is a team that Reeltown should be able to get a victory in the win column or get a W in the win column for, but the main issue I do want to see with them is being able to be more consistent offensively, and I think that'll be required to get the W tomorrow. But having said that, you're right, they have to get this win because you don't want to start out 0-3 because
right.
then at that point almost every game becomes a must win.
Right, for sure. And I think that, like you said, this is a game. They're in a very tough region, with Lynette, with Horseshoe Bend, and that region's difficult. And again, just like Benjamin Russell, they're starting out with a team that they can beat, and they've got to take advantage of that. while they have the chance for sure.
Absolutely, and I do think that this will be the game. I won't give a complete prediction now, but I think they will be able to get in the win column this week.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, and then lastly, we are going to head over to Dadeville against Mumford. Again with our theme of region play, I've heard this is the District of Doom. This is one of the hardest regions across the state, across the classifications. Dadeville coach White also talked a lot about you can't get in a hole early. This is not the time that you want to lose.
Yeah, and just looking at how the season started for the Tigers, 2-0, big win in the rivalry week against Reeltown. So somewhat surprising, at least for me. I was anticipating a slower start for them, but 2-0. So this is at least they have some momentum going into this game. But as you said, this is probably the toughest region in the state, and all of the best teams are in this region, in 4A. So looking at it, the Tigers do have a good opportunity to get the W, but I did go against them in the paper this week and pick Mumford just based off of what they've been able to do previously. And obviously, too, the game against Clay Central, only lost 21-20 there. And based off what we saw last week with Benjamin Russell and Clay Central, I think that Mumford will be able to put up a good contest against the Tigers.
Now, I wasn't as impressed with Clay Central as everyone.
They were well coached. I will say that they were very well coached.
Well coached for sure, but was expecting a little bit more from them. But again, they did beat Mumford. It was on a kind of a last-second field goal that was just inches wide, or inches short. I'm sorry. And so it'll be interesting to see how this game plays out. We're kind of expecting a low-scoring game. So, hopefully the Tigers will kind of keep their momentum, like you said. Yeah,
and again, as you said, I think that the front four for Mumford is supposed to be really highly touted coming in this game. So we'll see if they're able to combat the athleticism that the Tigers have, especially with Quay Tucker. So we'll see if they're able to bottle him up and limit the offensive opportunities for them.
All right, and next we're going to discuss our Dark Horse Player of the Week, brought to you by Dark Insurance Agency, and I'm going to let you start it off this week.
All right, last week we went with the Horseshoe Bend General, Trace Meadows, who ended up having a really great football game last week, and we'll see if we can keep it going with a non-BR player just to keep you satisfied. But we'll go with a David Tiger, Kadori Glenn. Although I did pick against the Tigers, I think that if he's able to have the type of week that he had against Reeltown, we had over 100 yards rushing, I think he'll be a great supplement to what Quay Tucker does with the Tigers. So if he's able to get things going, I think you'll see that the Tigers are able to get the victory. So that is my Dark Horse Player of the week.
All right, and I'm going to go with Cameron Faison from Reeltown. He wasn't maybe touted as one of their as their top skill players, but he's impressed me so far. He's been very consistent so far. He's a young guy, and again, like we said earlier, they have to win this week, and if he can kind of keep that momentum going for the Rebels, hopefully they'll be able to get one in the win column.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Thanks again to our sponsors, Langley and Rodney Funeral Homes, as well as Alex City Marine and Dark Insurance Agency. And make sure to join us tomorrow night. We'll be at the Sportplex Live for Inside the Lines Live before Benjamin Russell's game against Pelham at 6 to 6:30. Thanks so much.